Hello and welcome back to Toy Thursday with Johnny Tiger on September 7th, 2023. This guy in front of the camera needs no introduction. Those of you who can't see the screen, because I know for sure I have some blind viewers. So in front of the screen we have the action figure of a Daredevil, the Daredevil. This one was the one that came in the Defenders 4 pack. Yeah, I know there was actually a Defenders 5 pack, but I was not fortunate enough to get that one because I think that was like a Comic Con exclusive or some such nonsense. So I ended up getting the 4 pack instead, uh, which is where the Daredevil came from. Why am I showing Daredevil? Most people who watch my channel and have spoken to me before know that I personally am not a fan of Daredevil. Yeah, I heard your collective gasp of surprise. I'm a blind martial artist who doesn't like Daredevil. How crazy is that, right? Um, I don't want to go into all the reasons and whys and stuff like that. Why I personally don't like Daredevil, because I've mentioned this multiple times before, and I really don't want to go through that again. Uh, I mean, if you're really interested, you can send me a message or ask me in the comment section, and I can answer you there. Uh, but the reason we are showing Daredevil today, even though I personally don't like him, is because today we're celebrating Superhuman Day. What is Superhuman Day? Well, let me tell you this. Your reaction, if you didn't know what Superhuman Day was, your reaction probably was a little bit like mine. When I was researching what video I'm going to do, which figure I'm going to show today, I was thinking, oh, Superhuman Day. When I came across that, I went, oh, Superhuman Day. This ought to be easy. This is kind of boring. I can show any superhuman and call it a video. But then I read more into it, and it's actually turned out to be a lot cooler than I thought it was. You see, Superhuman Day is not a day for you to celebrate comic book superheroes or movie superheroes or any of that. Superhuman Day was started by Channel 4 in the UK back in 2016 when Channel 4 was broadcasting the Paralympic, that's the Olympic for the disabled people. And during that broadcast, they put together a campaign, an uh, uh, advertisement, my Chinese accent coming through, an advertisement that they had 140 people with various disabilities showing their talents, how they can overcome adversities and all that stuff. And so since 2016, Channel 4 has dubbed this day, September 7th, every year as Superhuman Day. This is a day when we celebrate those people who have disability and still manage to overcome their disability to do what they want to do what other people think they cannot do. Sound familiar? Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Johnny Tiger is all about that. So, because as far as popular icons go, there's not going to be another superhero that's more fitting for this video, for the opening of this video. This is why we have Daredevil on the opening today. But it would be boring if I just do a video on Daredevil. Maybe not. Maybe you like Daredevil. Who knows? But I'm sorry. If you like Daredevil, this is not a video about Daredevil. We're going to bring in another character who's even more disabled uh, than Daredevil. I don't even consider Daredevil disabled, actually, to tell you the truth. Um, we're going to bring in a truly disabled character, and we are going to talk about him. And this is a very odd one. This is a retro action figure of Lord Blackthorn from Ultima Online. Lord Blackthorn's Revenge. I know that I just said that as if I really know what I'm talking about, but let me quickly say this. I have no idea what Ultima Online was really about. I know Ultima Online was a series of computer game, um, and it had some like swords and sorcery stuff in it. Uh, it came out in the early 2000s, and beyond that, I really have no knowledge of Ultima Online. I just came across the action figures and I thought they were really, really cool. And that was good enough for me. So this was one of those properties where I bought the action figures while not knowing hardly anything about them. I bought them just based on their design, how cool they were, and a little bit of backstory of each character that I could find out about. So I had no attachment to the game. Uh, Lord Blackthorn was once upon a time the highest ranking nobleman of a kingdom called Britannia, and that is like Ultima Online's the game version of the Great Britain Empire, the Great British Empire. So just think of it like King Arthur's and Knights of the Round Table, but a little bit more of a magical uh, setting. Then you got it. So anyway, so the kingdom was falling into chaos, and the king has either died or gone away. I can never figure that one out. Anyway, the country was now without a ruler. The kingdom of Britannia was without a ruler. Lord Blackthorn thought that, okay, since he is the most qualified, he would get to lead the kingdom and uh, basically make the kingdom into his vision of how it should be. However, there was a wizard, uh, like a court wizard. I guess you can think of the wizard as Merlin. But there was a wizard that opposed Lord Blackthorn, and so Lord Blackthorn was all pissed off and angry. And then he found himself suddenly transported to somewhere new. And this was somewhere not in the past, not in the future, but like almost a completely different dimension. And in this dimension, there's this, well, think of it as Satan, yeah, like devil. So there's this demonic being that is as old as time itself. And basically, he told Lord Blackthorn, hey, I know how you feel, dude. Like, when I was born, I was like, I'm as old as time. So I've been here the entire time the world has been here. And then when my opportunity came, I thought that since I am as old as time itself. I've been here the whole time. Figured that I would be the guardian of the whole world. I would be able to make the world into my own image. But some other guardians disagreed and they sealed me away in this weird time dimension, space dimension place. So, hey, this is just me saying like, even though I am like a demonic god and you are just a mortal, I totally understand. I get it, dude. I get why you're so angry. As a wizard, yeah, like how dare he tell you that you're not fit to rule the kingdom? You're obviously the most qualified person, and I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to give you a new body. I'll give you powers, and I'm going to let you be able to rule the entire world with your new body and new power. Yeah, I mean, sound kind of questionable, right? I mean, if suddenly you're transported to a different dimension and this demon god that tell you all this stuff, I think most of us are smart enough to say, yeah, no, I don't think so. But Lord Blackthorn, he's ambitious and he's very pissed off at the wizard for blocking his path. So he said, yeah, sure, go ahead, give me a new body. And the once good-looking Lord Blackthorn basically had two-thirds of his body totally destroyed and remade into this a quarter flesh, three-quarter machine monstrosity. And needless to say, the rest would be very typical, the newly made cybernetic, cyborg, crazy, half dead Lord Blackthorn went back to the kingdom of Britannia with an army of half mechanical, half organic monsters as his new army and took over the world. And I'm guessing, don't get this part, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing the objective of the game, Ultima Online, was so you can defeat him and save the world. But like I said, I really don't know anything about the game, so who knows? Maybe there's more to that. But anyway, um, as some of you know, I often lament the fact that I've never had a Darth Vader action figure, even though Darth Vader has always been one of my favorite characters, no matter where. But for some weird reason, I just never had a Darth Vader action figure. And now that I sold my Star Wars collection, it's unlikely I'll ever have a Darth Vader action figure because there's no point for me to just get a Darth Vader anymore. Kind of sad. Anyway, but Lord Blackthorn kind of appeals to me in the same way as Darth Vader. Not in his powers or not in his story, they're very different people. But just in this sheer madness level of disability that they both have suffered. I mean, Darth Vader can't breathe without his oxygen tank and his mask and respirator, and most of his body was destroyed. And our Lord Blackthorn here is like similar. He's basically like a reimagined Darth Vader of a different universe, if you will. Um, in fact, when I first came across the action figure, before I read any of his biography, I came across an action figure, and I was thinking, like in my head, this would be a Darth Vader. This would be the Ultima Online version of Darth Vader, a guy who's mostly crippled but wearing a very cybernetic suit of armor or cybernetic body parts and be able to like destroy things with a wave of his hand. And even though he's disabled, he has a fear of the entire world, and everyone fear him because of how powerful uh, he is. Now, I don't know if Lord Blackthorn was really like that in the game or not, but in my imagination, in the story I made up for him in my head, he's basically that Ultima version of Darth Vader. He kind of remind me a little bit of General Grievous as well, with all that like bionic, cybernetic, robotic parts all over him. I mean, you can kind of imagine him to be like Doctor Doom as well, I suppose. Like it's similar situation, like a guy who's evil and powerful, but uh, kind of messed up, and have to rely on technology and magic to keep him alive. So I guess in that sense, he's a little bit like Doctor Doom as well. Um, this action figure came out, I believe, 2003, 2002. So he is at least 20 years old. I will confess, this is the second one I've owned. The first one I bought way back uh, got so broken that after a while I just decided to go on eBay and get a replacement. Luckily, um, for some reason, these Ultima Online action figure made by Todd McFarlane, they're not very expensive even today. I mean, if you like this guy, you can still go on eBay and get him for like 20 bucks. Yeah, I know back then he was only 12 bucks, but after 20 years, you can get him for less of a price of a uh, GI Joe action figure. And that is quite amazing because even though he's not super articulated, this is a good looking action figure. Like most of McFarlane's work back then, it's all in the look. I hate saying that because I can't see it, but it's all in the look. And this guy is an amazing looking action figure. This figure stands just under 8 inches tall, although I use the word stand loosely because he actually can't, because he doesn't have legs. Uh, like I said in his story, when he got transformed by the demon god, most of his body was gone, and that includes his lower body. So, if we grab this figure and bring him closer to the camera, we're going to look at his lower body. Cape just fell off. Uh, you can see there's no lower, like the lower body is this big metallic triangular spike thing that that's actually quite gruesome when you think like why does a guy have a metal spike for lower body? What's that for? Like that's really crazy. So in the story, because he no longer have legs. So he used his power to fly, to hover above the ground uh, when he has to move about. Now, obviously, this figure can't do that, so uh, we are going to get the cape back on there, the cloak. Now, this cloak is not actually meant, it's not meant to be removable, but it's one of those things that kind of wonky about this figure because it does fall off rather easily. But, you know, because I don't really play with my figure, so I don't bother to crazy glue this back on. So this figure comes with this clear display stand. There's a slot on his lower body or what's left of his lower body. You put that in, and voila, he can hover above ground. I mean, it is an old figure, so you have to be very careful with this guy because, like a lot of McFarlane's toys from the early 2000s, he is more for just stand there and look at. Like, you don't want to move this guy too much, really, because things will break, things will fall off. That's how my first one got really broken to begin with, because it's just not a durable action figure. Now, durability and lack of articulation aside, it looked really good. This guy all the mechanical machinery parts on him have this rough, hammered look about them, like someone literally forged these machines. They're not made in a factory. They're like made by hand or something. Um, the only part that's left on him that's still organic is basically his right arm, which is very, very muscular. This is a muscular guy. His head and face, and I believe there's some flesh left on the right side of his chest and back. That's about it. Like the rest of this guy is just all crazy armors and machines and uh, like this is as disabled as it's going to get. Um, Everything from the studs and the screws and rivets on his armor and the machine parts, beautifully etched and created and painted, and even the scar and the stitches on his head is very well detailed, so I was told. Obviously, I can't see these fine details with my own eyes. So, uh, anyway, he also has wires and hoses and tubes and all kind of doodash running everywhere from his head and his arms, connecting to different parts of his body. And on his back, he got this giant uh, Oxygen tank? I don't know what that's supposed to do. Again, I don't play the game, so I don't know if that is like supposed to contain, I don't know, life-giving potion or fluid, or is it something like does he need gas or fuel to move or what? I don't know. You guys can tell me if you guys know what he's about. So anyway, so he got this giant oxygen tank looking thing on his back. His left arm is replaced with this giant mechanical claw, and this is the most articulated part about this guy. Uh, the mechanical claw, again, have all kind of, see, little wires running here, wires dangling on the side. There's a hydraulic tube here. Well, I think that's supposed to connect to something, but it's not anymore. It got ripped off. Um, again, all kind of little things that are easy to break on this guy. Be careful. So the shoulder armor on this mechanical claw, this part move to give it more range of movement, and the elbow on the mechanical claw move, and the claw can open and close like a pincer on the crab. His head can turn. Um, his other arm, his human arm, have articulation at the shoulder and at the wrist. Wrist. Yeah. Um, there is a weird articulation on his waist that allows him to hinge forward and back, but mostly you can't use that because if you use that, his cape or his cloak is going to fall off. Speaking of cloak, it's a good-looking piece of garment that goes from his shoulder all the way down to the ground, uh, and it's really textured. It's a nicely textured cloak, and it is purple with blue accents. So this guy, even though he is a scary cybernetic warlord, he's still got a really cool fashion sense with his cloak. Like I said, if you like the look of this guy, you can get him really cheap on eBay still. Ultima online figures, for the most part, uh, have not risen too much in value unless you want the dragon. There is a dragon, the ancient worm, in this assortment. And I think the dragon and maybe Captain Dasha, the heroine, the good guy, I think those two are the most expensive. But the rest, Adrenath, the wizard, or uh, the Juggernaut, and Lord Blackthorn, you can get them pretty cheap, still in their boxes. So if you like the look of this guy, he's not that hard to find. Um, Now we are going to do some quick size comparison and uh, stand him with other figures because one thing I like the most about this particular figure, aside from the fact that he reminds me of Darth Vader, is that he has such a crazy design that he kind of look right in any kind of display. Uh, he can be the bad guy in almost anything, from your horror, sci-fi, steampunk, superhero, or even medieval fantasy. Like as long as you let your imagination roam free and have an open mind, this guy fits in almost anything. And we'll look at that right now. Since we had Daredevil already, let's bring Daredevil in to pose with our Lord Blackthorn action figure. Here we can see that our biomechanical Tyrant, even though he is made like 20 years ago, towers over Daredevil. This Daredevil is very standard. He's like built on the one of the most used standard Marvel Legend body, and yeah, Lord Blackthorn, despite being 20 years older, um, posed pretty good with Daredevil. He definitely looks imposing next to regular sized action figure like Daredevil. What's more cool is that we can see that his mechanical arm with his big mechanical claw is actually strong enough, the joint is strong enough to hold Daredevil in mid-air. This is cool. I love it when an action figure is big enough and the joints are strong enough for them to actually pick an action figure, another figure off the ground like this. This is some really cool stuff. And of course, the size is even more imposing. If you display Lord Blackthorn with, say, a 5-inch action figure from the mid 90s, like I have here, with the Havoc from X-Men, made by Toy Biz in the mid 90s. Uh, and yeah, like I can totally see that Lord Blackthorn would make a really cool villain for your superheroes. Maybe he would be someone like Mojo or Modoc, one of those crazy uh, bioengineered, biomechanical overlord type. We can even have Lord Blackthorn face off against one of your more modern Power Rangers, also by Hasbro. This one, in this one, I have uh, Lord Blackthorn actually hurling one of the um, energy effects that actually originally came with the Power Rangers. And it actually display really cool. Like if you have some additional blast or magic effect to put in his hand, that will enhance his look a lot. Here we have one of the Necron Flayed One skeletal monster warrior from the Warhammer 40k line, also recently made by McFarlane. And even though they're from completely different timeline and story, we can see here that one of these Necrons actually look really cool standing beside Lord Blackthorn. Like it can be one of his robotic, cybernetic minions. Uh, like I can imagine if you get a group of these Necrons just to surround him and do his bidding, it actually look really cool. I know it doesn't make sense because they're nowhere from the same timeline, but hey, like some of my favorite action figure reviewers have said, it's your toy, you do whatever you like. And just to illustrate my point, the last comparison we have here, we have Druid Jordan from Forgotten Realm, Dungeons and Dragons, facing off against Lord Blackthorn and his newly acquired Necron skeleton warrior. Despite having poor articulation and is really quite fragile and not fun to play with, Lord Blackthorn manages to fit in with a lot of different display options, and he just needs to look good standing there, which he does very well. So that's it for today's video. Concludes our Superhuman Day. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll be back again tomorrow for some more Johnny Tiger, hopefully kitten goodies. For now, have a good night.